Exposition? What do I, a senior at Netherton High School, need to know about exposition? While talking to the chalkboard sounds like a blast, I don't need any more reasons to embarrass myself in front of everyone.
I've been reading the webcomic Cyanide and Happiness for as far back as I can remember. A collection of crudely drawn comics featuring characters that regularly debase and commit violence against each other, it was a favorite hotspot on the juvenile web that was home to other irreverent webcomics with attitude. The comic persisted, and years worth of depression weeks, absurdity, sex, and poo jokes haven't slowed them down one bit. In fact, Cyanide and Happiness has carved itself a nice slice of the internet for its own little media empire, comprised of new comics, animated web shorts, a make-your-own comic card game, character merchandise, and now the inevitable video game. Drawing inspiration from the classic point-and-click adventure game genre, Cyanide and Happiness Freakpocalypse is your chance to wade through the CNH cinematic short universe. If this paragraph means absolutely nothing to you, then you'll find Freakpocalypse to be a moderately enjoyable adventure game that doesn't go out of its way to break any time-honored conventions.
That's Mr. Murphy, my math teacher.
With its strong South Park stick of truth vibe, in so much it relies on pop culture and foul language to get a laugh, Freakpocalypse casts the player as Coop, better known as Netherton High School's in-house punching bag. Everyone absolutely hates Coop. From the school-sanctioned bully and irritable librarian to the recently divorced janitor and Netherton citizens at large. They take pride in reminding him just how worthless and unpopular he is. This makes Coop's life a living hell, but he rolls with it as best he can, finding solace in his meager collection of friends and acquaintances. When a classroom scuffle gets Coop sent to the principal's office, he's forced to sit through a demeaning lecture on guidance and having goals, which creates the game's first major milestone challenge, to get a prom date. Coop's quest to get a date runs afoul of students needing, or threatening, Coop's help to solve their own problems while giving him the means to find that special someone who won't throw up when asked to go with him to the school dance. It's worth noting that Freakpocalypse is an episodic adventure, and Part 1 covers little ground when it comes to the overall story. In fact, the impetus for the adventure doesn't incur until the very end of the episode, which could last anywhere between 3 to 5 hours depending on how thorough you are in exploring what Netherton has to offer. Without having played the upcoming episodes, I can already say that Part 1 is weak because of how tedious it can be, both in terms of its story and gameplay. There's very little for Coop to do other than talk to people at school and in town, all of whom seem to harbor a nascent animosity towards the poor kid. And the shtick of being the world's punching bag is only funny for so long before it outstays its welcome, which it most certainly does. There came a point where I simply stopped doing side activities because I got tired of Coop's constant humiliations. As it turns out, when you ignore the game's collection of weirdo townspeople, there's very little to hold it aloft. The game draws on the time-honored mechanisms of point-and-click adventures by breaking up the world into screens occupied by people and interactive objects. You'll click the screen to move Coop around and interact with said citizens or objects, where thorough examination or talking prompts provide additional information and multi-level conversations. Eventually, Coop will come across an obstacle that prevents him from advancing his current chore, and you'll have to hunt for objects, sometimes combining them into 2 items, to get ahead. Keeping track of Coop's tasks is handled by an in-game journal that displays current chores, side activities, and character customization options. The notebook also comes with a hint system that gives gentle nudges of what you should do to get over your current hurdle. Part 1 mostly concerns itself with setting up the titular Freakpocalypse, and as such, you'll spend the majority of your time traipsing through Netherton's hotspots, like Coop's school, a retirement home, and Coop's grandmother's house before setting off a chain of events that has terrifying ramifications for the townspeople. However, Freakpocalypse's slow pace doesn't make the journey to the major story beats interesting or fun. I wish the episode got to its destination much sooner instead of throwing the player headfirst into antiquated adventure game busywork disguised as world building. Although it's not as difficult as the old Sierra adventure games, in fact it feels closer to the design of the old Tim Schafer LucasArts games, it's pretty hard to stay invested in an episode that barely goes anywhere and is filled with truly horrible, unkind people. Yeah, sure, it's funny to see a kid get picked on, but in the end, the Cyanide and Happiness game doesn't quite live up to the humor established by the comics and shorts. Cyanide and Happiness Freakpocalypse Part 1 Hall Pass to Hell, a game 3 years in the making, is, in a word, fine. It has no interest in reinventing the adventure game wheel. The pacing is slow, and the piling up of abuse against Coop gets old pretty quickly. What impressed me the most about the game, though, was the quality of its voice acting. If nothing else, the men and women voicing Coop, his grandmother, the shifty librarian, and the entire Netherton High School student body do a really great job reading their lines, even when it comes down to the sharp, derogatory exclamations. The writing has its fair share of material that's worth a few sharp exhales through the nose and sensible chuckling, but the committed delivery of the cast is a nice surprise and adds value. If you're a fan of the Explosum webcomic series and shorts, then Freakpocalypse is bound to hold a measure of interest. Just don't go in expecting too much. Darkstation gives Cyanide and Happiness Freakpocalypse Part 1 3.5 stars.